Hi, everyone. It's great to be up here and be at this event today. Why don't we just go down the line first and have each of you discuss how you're in this space and very fast what the value proposition is that you're bringing to your customer base.
Start with me.
Start with you.
Sure.
Right
John Cohan, I'm Chief Operating Officer of Blockchain Made Easy, also known as BEASY. And our value prop is for not only the sports, but also for the entertainment industry itself, to provide the network, if you will, the platform to allow athletes, for example, to take their name, image, and likeness and monetize that to a great extent. Now that the NCAA has lifted those rules, and made it a little bit more easy and autonomous for the athletes to do so, we provide that ability in a very seamless way in that we're not married to any one particular marketplace, but we have the ability to go between marketplaces and provide for the platform them to create the NFTs and then trade those NFTs as they like. Not only them, but also their fans. We provide the ability for them to have a wallet. The NFT is then put into that wallet, and then they can do what they want. They can sell, they can trade, etc. So that's me.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I want to thank Cubic Labs for having us here today. My name's Lisa Fosdick. I'm a co-founder of Finnoverge, and we're a guide. We would look at all of the folks on this panel and the other brilliant panelists today as resources as we work with brands, legacy brands, who want to enter this space with innovative technology. We would help them identify opportunities in the marketplace and build a solution and a team to serve that marketplace. So that's what Finnoverge does.
Hello, my name is Mahlon Williams. I'm with Blockjocks. I'm the CEO and founder. Blockjocks is an extension of an existing business that I've had for over 15 years in the Boston area called I Love Boston Sports. We've got 3 locations as well as online. A majority of the really cool, unique t-shirts that you might see in this area or wall art that features the prominent Boston teams that's done in a real creative, nuanced way. Chances are it came from me and my company. We've been in the digital art space for about 24 years since it started in the mid to late 90s. The strength of our business is the network of artists that I've created from when I worked on Wall Street in New York. I lived in an apartment building with 15 Marvel and DC aspiring artists above me, and we became good friends, and I built a network from there. And we've been in the digital space for so long, so that when NFTs became popular, it was a very easy pivot for us, which is one of the reasons why when you see our product, it tends to look very, very different than everything else that you've seen. So we have a marketplace that's launching very soon. We worked on it for the better part of a year and a half, but right now we're doing collaborations with DraftKings and others while we kind of buy the time to launch our own platform.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Zarracina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TrueTickets. TrueTickets is a provider of trusted access for live experiences. We're a B2B SaaS enterprise plugin for secure, contactless digital ticket delivery. Think of us as an enforcement engine for ticket rules from point of sale to point of scan. We are ticketing system and marketplace agnostic. Currently, we have a production plugin for the Tessitura ticketing system. You've never heard of Tessitura, but if you've gone to Boston Symphony, you actually used a ticket that started in the Tessitura system. In fact, if you've gone to the Boston Symphony or Tanglewood in the last year and a half, you likely used a TrueTickets ticket and probably interacted with blockchain and had no idea you were doing it. We started in 2017 with this idea of we're going to build a B2C solution to prove the efficacy and viability of blockchain technology. We built essentially an end-to-end ticketing solution on an app that leveraged Hyperledger Fabric. We learned a ton in 2018. One thing we learned was nobody wants another consumer-facing ticketing platform. That said, it credentialized us in the market. And so venues started to come up to us and say, hey, we really like your technology. Can you figure out how to plug that into our ticketing system? And that's what we did. We evolved in 2019 into what we are today. Since essentially launching our production version of the product in November of 2020, we've now delivered over 2 million tickets via our service. We're live with 9 venues in the US, 1 in London, that was just announced this week. And about 1/3 of those tickets have been enabled by blockchain, again, Hyperledger Fabric. So we're not an NFT ticketing company, but we are exploring how to couple what we do with secure digital ticket delivery in real life with NFTs to create more connected communities for our clients.
And just from a NuArca Lab standpoint, we focus on, in the NFT side of the house, sports brands, individual athletes, as well as really helping tournaments and others, realize the potential of engaging with fans. You're looking at engaged fans, a passionate fan is a profitable fan, and really looking at the sacred relationship between the fan and the brand itself, and in the case of outside of sports, the sacred relationship between the customer and the brand. And I'm curious how each of you think about that sacred relationship and what you're doing to protect it in terms of retaining value and helping the brands push their value forward. And maybe Mahlon, we can start with you.
Sure. Our philosophy when it comes to this NFT space, when it comes to the final product that you're selling, we believe that the art is the utility. And that's why our tagline is digital art, physical joy. But because there's so much noise in the space, we realize that utility is a big part of it. We eventually think that there's going to be less reliance on the actual utility that accompanies the NFT or the experience. And from our perspective, we would like to see that happen simply because we don't have control over what our partner is willing to do if you're an athlete. So when we engage in a relationship, we want to make sure that they're doing it for the right reasons. They're not doing it to get rich quick, that they're using it as a means to engage with their fans, and that we're going to deliver a visual product that they want to show off. A lot of these athletes, they'll buy a fancy chain, or they'll buy a fancy car, or custom sneakers. They spend a lot of money on this stuff just so they can flex, if you will. And so we do the same thing with the digital collective that we create for them. We want it to be something that they're proud to share with their fans, and they are willing to attach experiences to it. But we have a very rigorous process on the way in to make sure that they are committed to delivering what they say they're going to deliver, because we make a financial investment based on what their level of engagement is. And if it becomes very bad for everyone if they say they want to do it and then ultimately they don't deliver, because we're the ones holding the bag and have to explain why this particular athlete, essentially rug pulled his fans. So
yeah, that's great. And Lisa, I know that you've had experience working with brands with a very, very long legacy who are now thinking about how they're moving into the digital space. How do you ensure the integrity there?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. At Finnoverge, we've launched 2 legacy brands. One was for Paul Michael Glaser, who is a fine artist and a celebrity. He wanted to turn his artwork into pieces that could raise funds for the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. And most recently, we did a project for Wendell August Forge, which is a legacy company that mints metal commemorative pieces, a 100-year-old company. And we take that so seriously. We feel like they're giving us their identities, and we want to treat it like gold and make sure that we maintain the integrity of the brand. And both of those brands really wanted to give an on-ramp to folks that were fans to understand this innovative technology and to be able to give their brands a future life in this world that we're all building together. So we took it very seriously and still maintain the communities and are trying to maintain the communities that were built to support those NFTs. It's a long-term play. It's a commitment.
And Matt, what does this mean from a ticketing standpoint?
Yeah, no, from a ticketing standpoint, it's further upstream, right? So if you talked about Boston Symphony, prior to True Tickets, they knew maybe 20 to 30% of the people coming into their doors. And this by no means is isolated to the arts. I had a conversation with a Major League Baseball team. They draw 2 million people a year. They know 500,000 people coming into the stadium. That's 75% of their audience, 1.5 million people that they don't know every season, right? So when you talk about creating connected communities, step 1 is just knowing who's interacting with your product, who's engaging with your product, right? Then step 2 is now once you know them, you've seen who's been transacting with your product, that's then when you can engage with this. So when I think of what True Tickets is doing, we're really this infrastructure, this gateway that allows our clients to start to enable those engagements in creative and new ways. Because think about it like this, like did someone buy a right to have an NFT with that ticket? What happens if I share that ticket with you, Todd, right?
Yeah.
does that right go with it? Does it get separated? How do I account for that? And so having data and security through identity and accountability and ticketing is critical if you want to have this engagement. Otherwise, if you only know 1 out of 4 people coming into your venue and you've got all these great tools to engage people, you're completely missing out on that very foundational aspect of that connection.
Right. And John, you're talking to a lot of young athletes, right? Just establishing their brand,
Right.
just deciding who they're going to be into their markets, to their fan base. How do you work with them to help ensure they do that?
So, one of the biggest things is training, right? It's like getting the word out there, getting them to understand what this really means. And again, when the NCAA lifted a lot of its pretty draconian rules about, young athletes, college athletes having the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness, this brings to the party that ability now that they have that freedom. And just giving the athlete the ability to do it in a very seamless way, training them. We were boots on the ground, for example, at UNC a few weeks ago, and upwards of 500, 600 athletes where we sat in the room and basically were able to inform them as to what's going on and how this works, how it can work for them, how it can work for their fans. There is, believe it or not, if you compare the college athlete to the professional, there is a vast amount of fans, probably almost 3x, with college athletes versus professional. I was surprised to hear that and find that out, but it's really true. And they want a way to be able to connect with their fans. This is a really good way for them to do that in a seamless, hopefully a seamless way, and the ability to not have to deal with the crypto complications and understanding what that means. We have the ability to actually purchase with a credit card, with cash. Again, making it hopefully that much easier for the athlete and for the fan and them to have something in common.
Right. So, I mean, a big part of what makes a project work or makes a project fail is the fun factor, the excitement factor, like really captures the imagination of the fan or the customer. So if you think, I always think about the everyday fan for me being in Boston and us being in Boston as the Boston Bruins fan. The guy's got a gear bag and a stick in the back of his truck. He's going to the 11 o'clock beer league game. Tomorrow morning he's getting up and he's going to work. That guy doesn't own crypto. That guy doesn't really care much about NFTs, but he loves the Bruins. He'll do anything to meet Bergeron, Pasternak, before they break that line up, right? So how do you factor the fun into what you guys do? How do you make sure that it's a blast for anyone who's interacting with it, that they want to come back for more? Maybe I'll start with Lisa, and then we'll go to Mahlon.
Well, for both of the projects we worked on, that was elusive. Part of our mission was to identify what would get a Paul Michael Glaser fan jazzed about owning an NFT. They didn't even know what an NFT was at that time. And he was wonderful at being on Zoom calls and engaging his audience through his existing fan-based platform. So we had a great partner with Paul Michael Glaser, but we still faced headwinds, major headwinds in adoption. And that was almost 2 years ago. So you can imagine that was super early days. People were just super fearful. So we worked hard with Paul to have him be the fun factor. With Wendell August Forge, much more serious fan base. Both projects had phygital components. So you got an NFT, but you also got a physical piece. So with the Wendell August Forge project, we added a metaverse component to it where the 3D object could be viewed in the metaverse, and it had other utilities along with discounts and different things for product. So 2 very different projects and 2 very different approaches. I can't say we were super successful at bringing the fun factor in the way that we had hoped. So we're continuing to learn how to engage those audiences.
Cool.
I think that early on, it's the utility aspect of it, even though I say that eventually you want to deviate away from that and not make it so reliant upon the utility. But I think fans just want to feel included. And that level of inclusion can be access to experiences that a typical fan won't get. So like we talked about the athlete wanting to flex, fans want to do it too. I'm a part of this event. With Josh Allen, we just collaborated with a company, Metabilia, who works directly with DraftKings. They were getting to a deadline for a launch party, and they didn't have the artwork that they needed. They didn't feel confident with, so they asked us. I'm friends with one of the investors. And so we delivered a stellar piece of art for Josh Allen for the Bills, even though I'm a Patriot fan. So it hurt me to some degree, but at the end of the day, business is business. But what happened is that the people that received that artwork, they were invited to a private party with Josh, a very intimate setting. And so even though they paid however much they paid for the actual NFT, bundled with that was that very exclusive experience that they went to. And we were hoping that, we were like, oh, wow, Josh Allen, he's having a breakout year. People think he's going to be an MVP and the Bills might win the whole thing. The secondary royalties are, because we share in that as well, we thought we're going to be great. We were like, oh man, this is going to be amazing because this could be an added vertical for us. But we realized that there was hardly any secondary trading because people actually wanted to own the NFT. And so we're learning a lot about the impetus for why people buy things, why they make purchases, but also, not everybody wants to buy a collectible to keep it in the box and keep it up on a shelf. Some people want to just play with the damn thing. So the fact that there's utility that is actually useful in the real world, I think is huge, especially early on while the NFT market is seeking to establish its value proposition to the buyers at large, at whole, and sift through the noise. But our perspective, and that made us feel good once we realized that people didn't want to part ways with this art because it was so different and so unique. So now what we're looking to do is we're evaluating different physical, real world items that can be included so that not only can they hold it in their wallet and see it digitally, but they can also get a traditional physical collectible. And I've got some examples I'm happy to share with you guys, offline. But we're really trying to having fun assessing people's buying behavior and why people are buying these things. But I think at the end, if you can deliver value, and that value may not always be the experiences that are attached to it, but it could be just the fact that the quality of the art is fairly priced and it's above what else is out there, people will find value in that. Cool.
Now, so both of you mentioned this connection between the digital world, the cyber world, and the meat space world, right? So digital, right, is the new phrase that's being thrown out a lot. So, John, how are college athletes helping bridge that gap into experiences and value that their fans experience?
I think, again, it comes down to, look, a lot of the college athletes are, they're of the millennial generation, right? So they all want to be part of that digital community, that digital environment. And by us providing an ability for them to not only, from the fans' perspective, to engage those athletes, but the athletes doing the same, in the digital world, right? It's something that's not necessarily that new, but relatively new in this space. Giving them the opportunity to do that, knowing that it's fairly simple and it's something that they can do on the fly with what we're offering, and the fact that it's not a lot of paperwork that's going on, not a lot of things that you've got to get bogged down on. It's something you can click and go kind of thing. I think is for the athlete and the fan is a big plus for them. So
there's less physical world stuff going on there and much more pure digital. And that generation see is
exactly. I mean, that generation, I sound like an old guy saying that, right? But the generation that follows is very much, they're on their phone, they're digital. Everything is, it's very little paper, very little print, very little physical. It's more of the digital asset in the world. And how does that help? How does that continue to perpetuate itself? And I think really, both the athlete and the fans are really into that now, and they want to continue that. I think it's going to grow. Okay.
So we have like 5 minutes left, so I have a broader question I'd like to pose to this group. We have, there's a lot of egg on the face in the NFT markets. There's been a lot of people who have been scammed. There's been a lot of bad press. The recent change in Ethereum to be low energy burn is massive, I think, in terms of changing people's perceptions. But the total number of people by most accounting that have ever owned an NFT is like less than 5 million. It's a crazy low number. We're at the very beginning of this. But what do we do now as people who are progressing projects and progressing businesses into this space? What do we need to do to make sure that we're being responsible actors, and what are some practical steps we can take to ensure the legitimacy and that we don't miss and squander this incredible opportunity to transform a whole ton of industries. So Matt, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. No, look, I think one is have your clients focus on what is the outcome you're trying to affect, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to have this great, unique, digital emerging technology, but what are you trying to do? What's the end result you're trying to get? And given that, I would say I would encourage, and we encourage our clients to explore. What's fascinating about the conversations we're having with our clients, right, in the arts and the entertainment space, is they're actually very cautious. They're already very cautious. But I've been in multiple meetings where they're thinking about, all right, how do we engage with NFTs? How do we maintain uniqueness and scarcity of our digital content? Right. So if you're the Schubert organization and you've got like Music Man with Hugh Jackman, and there's digital content, that Travis Knight 10 million person concert, in the metaverse, that destroys your business model. What you want to have is that uniqueness and scarcity. So maybe Hugh Jackman comes back for a show, and whoever was there's digital content that you have the ability to give to people, or gift to people, or sell to people. And so what I'm seeing in our space is because they're already very conservative, we're just continuing to explore. So the outside ramifications of what's happening in the market has had no impact on what our clients are doing, because they're just focused on, all right, it's about engagement, it's about new technology, it's about maintaining uniqueness and scarcity around the content we have, and then connecting it from kind of that, instead of that linear like point of sale to end, it's like creating a cycle, right? So I get that buyer, they buy the ticket, they interact with the ticket, they come through the gate, then there's the post-show. I actually want to make it a cycle. I want them to come back. So how do I create this engagement cycle? So in our space, they are conservative. We're just encouraging them to explore, and just explore the right way and focus on the outcome you want to achieve. That should be your North Star. Mahlon pointed out, like, hey, there's people trying to get rich quick. That's not what you should be focused on. That end result, and if that technology fits with that end result, then you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Mahlon?
They say price is only an issue in the absence of value. And that was something that we talked about when I was working in financial services. And I think that when you're looking at the overall NFT marketplace and you see all the noise that's out there, the first thing you need to do is try to find a way in which you can captivate the audience that you're trying to attract. But when you have projects that all look the same, even though that there's a list of utility that might come with this one versus that one, you can't always bank on the fact that those companies are going to deliver those experiences that they say they're going to deliver. So that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure ours looks great, because at the very least, even if you get nothing with it, there's value in that. And our job is to try to establish that that is indeed valuable. I think I'd like to get people who are used to buying our product in the physical world already. I think that getting them to adopt it digitally is going to be a fairly easy transition. But I think that ultimately you have to be different. If everyone is on one side of the boat, the easiest way to stand out is to be on the exact opposite side of the boat so that people can see you versus everything that's out there. And I think that's how we've run our business, from way back when, and I don't foresee what we do at Blockjocks to be any different.
Lisa?
For us at Finnoverge, it's being real, setting expectations, really addressing the marketplace. Both of our recent projects, our demographic was women over 40. So there was a really big commitment to building trust. And one of the things that was unique with the Wendell August Forge NFT was you got a serial number actually etched into a gold plate in the piece of artwork. So your NFT had your serial number built right into it. So we were trying to bridge that trust gap to help a traditional collector who likes the physical adopt a digital piece. So I think it's being real, setting expectations, and building trust to be that bridge. And frictionless, you've mentioned this a number of times, making it frictionless and easy for a new person to adopt the technology by paying with a credit card, being able to take possession of the NFT, custodian it themselves, and have access to it. So I think those are the factors that are top of mind for us at Finnoverge.
Okay. And so we have a stay of execution here of 5 more minutes. So let me ask the question this way. So given the weather we have today, calls to mind an old saying that there's no such thing as bad weather, just poor clothing decisions. So if we think about the projects that are out there today, what we're looking at doing, and the various different timing on situations, what do you think about the marketplace today, and how is this guiding your decisions? Maybe, Mahlon, you can start.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to something else that I learned. When I was at Fidelity, the role that I was in on the trading side, we had a lot of our high net worth clients that were used to being comforted at every step of the way, and the way that the company would comfort the comfortable is simply by just giving away things and making them feel privileged, if you will. And I think that relates to some of these NFT projects, because when you're continuously giving away things to get people to buy your product, you're conditioning that customer the wrong way. That's not what you want to establish, that type of conditioning, because eventually, once you stop giving away the farm, they're going to feel like that you're not that you're treating them bad. So we want to set, to Lisa's point, set the expectation up front that there's value in the art itself, but also making sure that you have the right customer. And I think this recent downturn in the crypto market is great, because just like the stock market, it has to whipsaw in order for you to shake the people out that shouldn't be in it in the first place. People that were buying it thinking that they were going to, make $1 million, because they made poor decisions in their life, and this was an opportunity to make some lost ground by getting rich quick. Eventually everything reverts back to the mean. And NFTs are not new. They're just a new application of age-old dilemmas that have happened in the financial services industry, stocks and housing and everything else. So that's my view. Hopefully I answered the question.
That's good.
All over the
All
place.
right, John, and then Matt. So.
Yeah, so, again, I kind of look back to my experience when I was in college. I went to Syracuse, and I sort of look at it as, the athletes are on a pedestal, right? I'm not going to get across that chasm kind of thing. And I think, we really want to sort of focus on the fact that, an athlete now can actually realize that he does have value, more value than just being out on the field or being part of that team. He actually can interact with his fan base and use a lot of the talent that he has, and realize that he has that talent in order to bring it forth and monetize it, where and before you never were able to do that. So I think, we're building, hopefully, you talked about the fun part of things, we're building the fun into it by allowing that community, if you will, between the fan and the athlete, but also the marketplace. I mean, look, it's changing, it's brand new. We're trying to keep it simple, right? We're not trying to overcomplicate it with what's an NFT and how does it work and the blockchain and all the science behind that. It's sort of trying to break it down to be able to say, look, you have the ability as an athlete to take what you're doing and share it with others. And oh, by the way, you might be able to make some money off of that. Fans, the same thing. You can see what's happening, but guess what? You may be able to get something from that athlete where you can go and trade and you actually make money. So it becomes a kind of a perpetual, lucrative yet fun event for everybody.
Great. Matt, look kind of fast if you can.
Yeah. Look, in tough times, your value proposition is really going to be found out, right? And what NFTs have done for digital content is amazing, right? NFTs took this thing, digital content, which before you couldn't prove ownership, you couldn't add value to, you couldn't make scarce, they did that, right? NFTs essentially created value out of nothing. And so when I think about True Tickets, or if I'm advising anyone else who's thinking about their efforts during a downturn or a tough environment, your value proposition has to be sound. And so for us, it's about trust in ticketing. And trust in ticketing is not ethereal. Trust in ticketing is identity. Who has this ticket? Who should have this ticket? And accountability. What can they do with it, right?
Yeah.
And we solve that through providing data and security via the ticketing process. That value proposition permeates any market, right? So if you have a strong value proposition that resonates, regardless if it's a frothy market or a downturn, you're going to be successful. It may be a little bit harder, but I agree with Mahlon in that those downturns are what kind of shake away, and you go from contenders to pretenders, and you break those out.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I'll just leave with one thought. This technology, it's only been owned by 5 million people in the entire world. The opportunity exists if we treat it properly and we treat everyone with respect to go from 5 million to 50 million to 500 million to 5 billion. And that's what gets probably all of us excited about participating in at this point and trying to make the right decisions that are going to really help drive the future fan, the future customer experience, and the way that we all interact with each other and with the brands that we love. So thank you all.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you,
Good
Todd.
job.